Magic button, Jane, shall we? And then we can start all again. It says going live. See, look, and there's a little whirly thing.
That's handy.
I know. There we go. It says you're live. Good morning, YouTubers. Hello and welcome to Natasha Makes. If we're late, we're sorry about that, aren't we, Jane?
We are.
We are
yes.
sorry about that. It's all right, Josh. I couldn't get this morning the page to load up. There's been much chaos and calamity and panic, hasn't there, for the past few minutes? To press the button to say hello to you YouTubers, but I've got you now, so good morning.
Morning.
And welcome. Jane, I'm going to sneeze. Clearly it's the panic and stress of the situation. I'm going to go over here for a second and not sneeze by pressing my face. Jane, what's behind you, darling? What are we doing today?
We're doing this beautiful Leesa Chandler Peacock through the window wall hanging.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It's gorgeous.
Now, the brilliant thing about this is that Leesa designed this, about a million years ago. And we've had the pattern. The pattern has been sitting in our armoury for a while.
It has.
In pre-printed format. And a few people have bought it and have said, oh, I really, really want to make it, but I need a bundle of fabrics for such a purpose. And we've not had one. Until now, because Jane's put one together for you.
Yeah.
And it looks fabulous.
It's come together really nicely, and it's a combination of all sorts of different fabrics which look gorgeous together.
They do. We've got some Leesa Chandler in there, as you would expect, but we've got some Robert Kaufman, we've got some Bumbleberries, we've got some Sue Penn, we've got all sorts going on in there. We've got some of our cotton blenders. So, yeah, and we've got a bundle we can look through in a little while.
Yes.
These kits are very, very limited, and I'm going to say that early on because I don't like it when people are disappointed, Jane.
No, it's not much fun.
No, it's not. Let's just see that everyone can hear us and that they're listening and chatting. Does your mic need batteries, Gemma? I mean, let's just go with, brilliant. It's all going well this morning. Let me check everything's switched on. Well, it is. Oh, well, there we go. Quite right,
You got no, but I'd only just put those in this morning. They're the same batteries as
apparently-
mine. Take mine, don't disappear.
Having a big old strap, Jane,
Dear.
to project. Sorry, everybody, for this noise.
It's always good when we have techie issues on a Monday morning.
I'm going to try these ones, Jane.
It's all good fun. Yeah, we've got a beautiful bundle. We put the bonder web and the interfacing in there as well. I'm going to demonstrate the basics for the peacock, and then I'm going to talk about how we put a sleeve onto a project to make it into a wall hanging. Because there have been a few people that have asked about that.
Yeah.
So I won't be doing much about the piecing. Well, I won't be doing anything about the piecing, just because it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
It's strips and rectangle squares.
You'll explain it.
Yeah,
Which is
we'll
fine.
go through it.
Yeah.
But we're going to concentrate more on the applique and the technique, and then we'll talk about how to make a sleeve on the back.
Well, that's good because that's the stuff we need to know. We have seen you piece bits and bobs together
Yes,
before.
it's a very nice border that goes together very easily.
Yes.
So you won't have any problems with that.
Excellent. Hopefully you can all hear me now, fingers crossed. I mean, I'm hoping that's all our tech issues out of the way.
Yes.
It's
I'm
at
very
least-
aware that I'm
at
standing
least
right in
3.
front of that peacock. I'm like,
I know. It's all right.
he's rather gorgeous,
He's
isn't he?
beautiful. But yeah, there's at least 3 things happened this morning. So that's got to be them all out of the way. My mum
Yes.
says these things always happen in 3.
Yes, they do tend to, don't they?
Yeah, well, we're going to go with that. Jimmy's with us this morning, says on Facebook now. Thanks, Jimmy. Sharon as well says good morning. Good morning to you, Sharon. Sue says, hello, ladies, sunny but frozen Cornwall Beach.
That sounds lovely.
Beautiful. She also said about my mic, so thank you for that. We've sorted that out, hopefully. Joe says, good morning, everyone. Becky says, morning, lovely ladies. I'm alone in the office today, so I have you on my phone to keep me company and keep up my spirits. Well,
we're cold here. Us. We've got no sunshine. We're just cold.
No, it really is a grey sort of day.
Yeah.
It's due to be really frosty later as well. And mine is the most impractical car for the winter, so no, thank you. Joy says, good morning, Jane and Gemma. Danny says, hi. Debbie as well says, morning, lovely ladies. Good morning.
Morning.
Good evening, Jimmy. Yeah, this is good. You're all chatting to each other. We love this too. This is great. Donna says, good morning, everyone. Pat and Jojo. Oh, my word, everybody's here. This is great. Yeah, the interference I had on the mic was me taking the batteries out, Sue, so don't worry about that. Just horrible noise. Jojo says, what a gorgeous peacock. And it is. This is a
lovely.
Leesa Chandler design.
It is.
But Jane made that one. She did that one, didn't you, Jane?
I did do that one.
Yeah, see? It's good. Over on YouTube, we have Cynthia with us. So she's in Ohio. Good morning in Ohio. Farmer Ali with us from West Berkshire. She says, soggy ground but dry air. I have a Utopia panel that will go perfect with the fabrics. Looking forward to Jane's tutorial. And that's the thing, isn't it? Lisa's pattern here, she tells you how to do this and how to applique, etc. But she does also say you could put a different panel inside, you could do a different applique project. It's a really versatile pattern to create that with a lovely big space in the middle for
absolutely beautiful.
Even a feature fabric. You know, when we get the Kaufmans in or a really big, impactful cape and you just want to be able to use a big piece of it, you could place that in the middle of there and then do the piecing.
Do the piecing around the outside.
So this pattern for me is a really useful one for your armoury, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. A bit of rustling on the mic. That'll have been me with the batteries. Sorry about that. Debbie and Iona have joined us as well. Diane's with us, that's Derbyshire Di. Good morning, Derbyshire Di. She says, good with sound, very cold today, snuggling with the dogs. Envious.
That sounds idyllic. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'd rather be snuggling with my pooches.
We love our job, don't we?
We do, but absolutely. If we had to choose,
we'd
be staying in bed.
In the whole world, it would be curled up with our dogs.
Yeah.
Mm. Cynthia says, I really like the piecing around the centre. It would be a great application for any panel, which is exactly what we just said.
Yeah.
Quite right, Cynthia. I'm going to post the links to today's products into the collections today. Perhaps you're new. Perhaps you've not seen us before. Good morning. You joined on a good day. All the chaos. Sorry about that. We are Natasha Makes. You can find us at natashamakes.com. In the UK, you can purchase our fabric bundles, patterns, all that kind of stuff, and we'll send it in that there post for you. However, if you're an international viewer, we have such thing as digital patterns.
Ooh.
So you can download these things. Now, Lisa's pattern today, we haven't got the digital file up yet because Lisa's having a twiddle with it.
Right.
But once we've got that, that will go on today's website page. Now, you might not know where to find that. That's fine. natashamakes.com. Click on either the Make It Monday tab or on the Watch Live page, but then make sure you click View All Products and you'll see all the things that we've got on today's show. I think
Makes sense. Yeah, it is.
But I'll pop a link now in the chats on Facebook and YouTube so you can find them.
That's always handy.
Yes, Jane.
Shall we go through the kit?
Lovely fabric.
Shall we look at the kit?
We do. Oh, hello. That's SJ sending me a message.
Oh dear.
Lots of static on my mic again. I mean, this is all good fun, isn't it? I might just go home again. It's Monday.
No, don't do that, Gemma. Don't leave me.
Idea. I can go and snuggle my dogs.
Oh, that's brilliant. Not bad. I'm coming with you.
Bye, everyone. No, I'm joking. It's all good.
So we've got a 1/2 metre of interfacing. This is medium weight interfacing. I've used this to bond on the back of the applique to stabilise it for free motion embroidery, to embroider the applique down. It's not necessary if you might want to embroider it by hand, but we put it in the kit because it's a suggestion. You've got your bonder web for your fusible applique. You've got a good chunk of black for the background and the sashing and the binding. You've got this lovely piece of linen effect turquoise colour for the border, the main border. Then there's a lovely bit of soupen.
Stunning.
We've got this lovely piece of Robert Kaufman, peony. Some bumbleberries. These are all these pieces of the Kaufman and the soupen are long quarters, and then you've got fat eighths of the other pieces. That's a bit of Kaufman. That's a bit of our blender. That's Mystic Vine. This is a bit of Robert Kaufman. A lovely bit of Farringham in teal from Leesa. Robert Kaufman, and then another piece of Flutter from our blenders collection. So all of those colours we chose because they blend nicely together and they're lovely peacock jewel colours.
They're beautiful, Jane.
They are gorgeous.
Oh, she's here. She's here. Get out. Get out. You have orders to pack. Go. Be gone.
Next orders.
Mush, mush. Hey. That was Natasha, everyone. She knows her place. Back in that warehouse, pack those orders.
In your instructions, they come beautifully packaged. You've got 4 sides of your instructions of how it goes together, a chart of the border placement.
Ooh, lovely.
And then you'll have your sheets of your Peacock applique, which I suggest you get photocopied or you trace them off onto single-sided pieces because they're double-sided. It explains in the instructions about how you join them together. You can see here there's an A, B and a dashed line, and it's just a case of lining them up so that they all fit together.
Pretty self-explanatory.
It is self-explanatory. The Leesa instructions, as always, are easy to follow, very clear. Now, what I also did was I decided, obviously, fabric A and fabric B are the long quarters because there's more cutting from those. C, D to I are the fat 8, so you can decide which ones you want to have where. So I made a note on my instructions which fabric was which, going with which letter. And then on the pattern, because Leesa gives you the cut-in instructions and she tells you the number that coordinates with on the border. So I then transferred the fabric letter to the number as well, so that I got a good visual of which fabric was going where. I put a little note, stuck a little, I actually used masking tape that I wrote the letter onto each of the fabrics, so I remembered which fabric was which. And she also gives you whether the measurement is the width or the height of the fabric. So, for example, on fabric F, she's put 5.5 wide by 3.5 inches high, which means if you've got a directional fabric, you know which way to cut it. Most of the fabric here is non-directional, so it wouldn't matter which way around you cut it anyway. But if you think you've got something in your stash and you think, well, I'll add that into this as well, you've got an idea then of which way round the fabric goes if it is directional, which I think is a lovely thing to do. Because there's nothing worse than cutting a piece of fabric and then putting it in and thinking, actually, that's the wrong way round. So once you've got your fabric cut, I would suggest cutting your pieces first and making sure you've got everything cut from your fabrics. You will have fabric left over and then you can use that for your applique. I think it's much better to do it, cut your pieces and then do your applique, and that way you'll be sure that you've got everything that you need and you can work out for your fabric placement. In the instructions, Leesa tells you to cut your main piece of fabric wider than you need it to be. It's longer and wider than it needs to be, just because when you're appliquing and sometimes when you're sewing, particularly with free motion, it can pull it in a little bit or distort it slightly. So you can then trim it down. Much easier to do that than to cut it to size and then find out it's just gone a little bit pulled in and it's not quite the right size. So you cut a piece that's bigger than you need to, give it a good press, and you take your fabric and you find the middle of your fabric, so fold it in half, fold it into quarters and give it a good crease so you can see where the middle is on your fabric. That's not done. I would take more time if I was doing this for my project, but I've got a crease here and obviously I've got the middle fold of the fabric. And do the same with your pattern. Once you've got it joined together, just fold it in half and then fold it into quarters. So again, you can find out where the middle of that pattern is. That's approximately there. And you can line that up then with the creases on your fabric and you'll be sure that it's actually in the middle of where you need it to be. Then dressmaker's carbon paper. It's got a papery side and it's got sort of, it feels a bit almost rubbery, but it's not rubbery. You want that to go onto your fabric. Now this is the right side of the fabric, and the instructions for this, it tells you to do it on the wrong side of your fabric, but for this point, we need to have it on the right side. So just place that under your pattern, and then with a biro, or we've got, when Leesa did her, when we did the Japanese Baltimore,
Yes.
the starter kit had carbon paper
Yeah,
and
it
these
did.
handy little, I think they're cuticle sticks if everybody knew what they were for, but they're very good for tracing over. I'm not going to do it on this piece of fabric, but if I do it on my, I've already traced some over, but if I show you on here, on my scrap piece that's going to be used for demo, you just trace over the pattern. And I would recommend tracing the number on as well, so you know where you are. So when I lift that off, you probably can't see it very well, but I can see it. I've got the pattern traced onto the fabric. It doesn't show up particularly well on here. You've got different colours. You've got yellow, red and white in there. So you could choose a colour that you can see better. The yellow might show up better. But that's a good way of doing it. If you feel that you can't get that, go to buying carbon paper, place the pattern underneath the fabric and put it against a window or on a light box and use a light coloured fabric marker to trace it round. Now, the observant of you will notice that mine is facing the other way.
Yes.
When I did this, I hadn't got any carbon paper.
Oh.
So I just traced the pattern off, rushed ahead without doing what Leesa tells you to do and to read the instructions. And because in the picture the fabric, the peacock is in the reverse, I just traced it and put it on, and I used the pattern as a guide for placing my pieces. But this obviously is a much better way of doing it. You get the peacock facing the correct way, and you'll get all your pieces exactly where you need them to be. Once you've done that and you've got all of that traced onto your fabric, you then need to take your pattern piece and you need to flip it over and you need to trace through all the pattern pieces on the other side. So you've got it in reverse. And then you'll take your bonder web, which we've got. You might have some steamer seam that you prefer to use, whichever you use, and you will trace your pieces. Now what you can also do, if you wanted to, you could have a look through your fabrics and you could decide which fabric you're going to have where, and again you could put the letter of the fabric on against your numbers so you know which pieces you're going to cut out from which fabric.
Okay.
So, for example, if you were going to cut all of these pieces here from the same piece of fabric, you'd want those quite close together. So you could trace all of those off in one section. And you could say, right, well, I'm going to have all of those in that fabric, and I'm going to have this one in that fabric, and this one and that one down there. So you would join all of those, trace all of those pieces so that they were together on one piece of bonder web, close-ish together.
Okay.
Enough space to put on. But so that you're going to cut out a piece that you will then iron onto the reverse of your fabric. So you've got all your pieces together and it saves you a bit of time.
Perfect.
So I'm just going to concentrate just on the headpiece for today, just so that we can do a demonstration of bonded applique and how that works. So we've got the head and neck, and we've also got the eye piece there. So that's two pieces of fabric, two colours. So I'm going to trace the neck. I'm just using an ordinary pencil. On your bonder web, you've got a rough side and a smooth side. The smooth side is the paper side. You want that facing upwards to do your tracing on. So you trace that round, just following the pattern, trying to keep to the lines. You'll be a lot more taking your time with this.
Well, you'll have time, won't you?
Yeah. And I just transferred the number on as well, just to help me with my placement later. Now, the eyepiece here, I'm going to trace that into a different area, because that's going to be from a different fabric. And so I need a different piece for that. So once you've got all your tracing done, you'll use your paper scissors and you'll trim around the shape. Now you trim around the shape, giving yourself 1/4 of an inch. It doesn't have to be completely a quarter, it could be a little bit less, it could be a bit more, but you don't want to cut on the line of your fabric, of your bonder web. You need to give yourself a seam allowance, if you like. And obviously, the more economical you are with it, you've got more to use at another time, and also you've got less waste of your fabric as well. So I did the eyepiece in the black. So I'd cut all my pieces of black out that I needed, and I've got some scraps left over. And I have a scrap of it in here somewhere. I put best laid plans and all that.
It's all right.
I put a piece of black in. Yes, there it is. So the rough side of the bonder web goes onto the wrong side of your fabric.
Okay.
Sorry, Gemma, I'm going to have to
it's
push in front of you.
No, it's fine.
And you iron that on. Now, you might want to put a Teflon sheet, big piece of baking parchment over the top just to protect your iron. And you'll iron that on. Let it cool. And then I'm going to use the turquoise. This is a little bit of the linen effect that I've got left over. If you've got wrinkles in your fabric, just iron those out before you put your bonder web on, because obviously it'll iron the wrinkle in. There we go. So then using your next best, not your bestest fabric scissors,
No.
your next best fabric scissors, the ones that are still sharp, but are a little bit blunt, and you're not too worried about using them. These are actually paper scissors, so they're not very sharp, but just then cut around on the marked line, on the line that you drew around the shape that matches the pattern. Okay, and then we'll do the same with this piece. And you'll do that with all your pieces. Now I suggest that you keep them all in the safe places, so that, because when they get to this sort of stage, you'll get some quite small pieces. I'm going to have to get fabric scissors because these aren't going to do anything.
It's no good.
Tasha will have to forgive me using her bestest ones.
She's got several pairs.
I know, she won't mind.
No.
Don't tell her.
No one's telling her. She's busy.
So, so you're just cutting it now on that drawn line. The reason we do that is so that the adhesive will spread. It's got like little blobs of adhesive on the back when you look at it closely. And when you apply heat to it, those blobs sort of melt and disperse. So if you cut your adhesive pieces, you're on the line before you put them on the fabric, the chances are that you might get that the adhesive doesn't go right to the edge, or it goes over the edge and it will attach itself to your iron, which is why we say maybe put a Teflon sheet to protect your iron before you start doing the bonding, just to protect it, just to keep it safe. So I'm going to move the pattern out of the way now. You've got your pattern now as a guide, so you want to keep that with you, and it's always so helpful to have the photograph as well, so you get a good visual effect of the colours and how they work.
Yeah.
Now, when you've got, like with the eye, that's going to go approximately there. I'm just going to trim that because it's quite angular at that bit there. Look at where you want it to be. It's about there. And you're going to find that on some of the feathers as well. You've got a large piece and a piece that sits on top of it.
Layered feathers.
Layered up.
Beautiful.
So when you cut those, you'll cut the whole piece of, like for this one, 36 and 37. You'll cut the whole one of 36 and then you'll cut the piece of 37 and you'll apply that to the top. So I would suggest to you, before you take off the papers on the back of 36, you apply 37 to the top of it.
Yes.
And then you can take the whole 36 off and you've got the whole feather then together to put onto your fabric.
Nice.
So I've got a scrap here and I've just transferred the headpiece onto there so I can see where the beak will be and where the head feathers will be, the crown, and then my head and my eyes. So to remove the paper from the back of your bonded piece, take a pin and just slide it underneath the paper and wiggle it and take it from the outside, take it to the outside then, and it'll come off. Sometimes it'll flick off. What I don't suggest you do is try and get your nail under the edge there and try and get the paper off that way. All that's going to happen is you're going to fray the edge of your fabric, and you don't want to do that. So it's just a case of taking your pin underneath, as I said, and then sliding the pin through. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron the eye shape onto the headpiece first before I take the paper off that. So I'm happy with the placement there. I'll take it to my ironing board.
Jane, it's good to do this on the ironing board, isn't it?
Yeah, I would take all your pieces and have them on the ironing board with your fabric and do all of this at the ironing board, because you'll get it right on your cutting mat or on your table, and then as you pick it up to take it to the ironing board, it all moves.
They flutter.
And they do have a tendency to float around as well, because they're
You
quite
lose
light.
them.
So we've now got that bonded onto there, and we'll take our pin, and as I say, we'll just give it a scratch and take it off. You'll know that it's the adhesive has attached itself to the fabric because the paper comes off nicely. Sometimes if you haven't applied it strongly enough, you'll come to pull the paper off and you'll start to see the web of glue come with it. If that happens, just put the paper down again and take it back to your iron and give it another press. Just remove the paper. The paper does get quite static and stick to you, and you end up floofing it.
You need a friend.
And it sticks to your clothes and all sorts, but it's good fun. You'll then place that over your diagram in the correct position, and again you'll just take it to the ironing board.
Although hopefully you'll already be on the ironing board.
Well, you will be, yes. And you'll give that a good press.
Lovely.
So that's all ready, and you'll carry on and you'll build your pattern up following the guide here. You'll have numbered all your pieces, so you'll know which piece goes here. Now, when you've got pieces that overlap here,
Yes.
like you can see 24 sits on top of 26.
Yeah.
When I was tracing it off, I just gave myself a little bit extra.
Yeah.
So it would sit underneath.
Nice.
So when I put those together, placed them on the top here, I could see where that would sit, and I put that one on top. So I bonded 26 on and then put 24 over the top. And there's a couple of places where that happened. This one here, I just carried the shape round and made a whole shape so that I could see how that sat on top of there. This one here, again, I just added a little bit extra to the edge. And the same with this one here. Just a little bit extra to the shape, just to carry it on so that when it went underneath, it didn't have that raw edge, because if you try, sometimes when you try and put them together against each other, you get that fraying, and when you come to sew over the top, it just accentuates the fray.
Top
So to
tips,
having
Jane.
it just overlapping just slightly, it only needs to be a little bit, just so that it sits on top, and it just gives a nicer finish to it.
Top tips. And it doesn't look bulky.
No, it isn't. No, it doesn't. Yeah, no, it doesn't add any bulk really to it. So once you've got all of that bonded on, you then need to sew it down. Bonded applique is not permanent. It will hold it, and it will hold it for a good time, but if you're going to wash it or it gets moved around, let's say that you weren't having it for a wall hanging, you're going to have it on your bed or something like that, and you have to wash it. Over time with washing, the pieces will come unstuck.
And we don't want that.
Because there's nothing worse than putting it in your machine and then taking it out and all the pieces are still in the machine.
Oh gosh, don't.
No, that'd be heartbreaking.
That would be no fun at all, Jane. And I suppose you've got a choice of a stitch, really, to use.
You can do buttonhole stitch, blanket stitch. You could do a zigzag. You could do a satin stitch. You could do straight stitch, which I've done, free motion. And I'm going to give you a little quick demonstration of how that works.
And not everyone's a fan of stitching by hand, but you could.
Yes, you could take it.
And you could sew.
Yeah, you could have lots of fun.
Embroidery
now,
stitches. Yeah.
as I said, you've got a piece of medium weight iron-on interfacing in your kit. It's a 1/2 metre piece, so it's plenty big enough for your piece of fabric. Trim your fabric down to the size that Leesa says in the pattern once you've got everything bonded on. Well, no, actually, she says to trim it down after you've sewn it. So just put your piece of bonder web on the back of your fabric. But make sure that your bonder web is slightly smaller than your piece of fabric. So it just sits over your embroidery.
Okay.
Just even if it's just 1/4 inch all the way around. It's just so that when you iron it on, any adhesive doesn't go out of your fabric.
Sorry, you said bonder web. Is this the medium weight interfacing?
No, sorry, interfacing.
That's all right. Just checking.
Yeah,
just keeping us on our toes, ladies and gents. It's Monday morning. Got to make sure you're paying attention.
You might find that your interfacing likes a bit of steam on it, just to help activate the adhesive.
Lovely.
So, if you want to, you can just give it a steam, just to increase the heat level of it, really, and make sure that it has adhered to the back of your fabric. And this just stabilises it. So it makes it easier to sew, particularly for freehand embroidery. I also think with this, it lends itself to adding beads and embellishments, sequins, things like that. You can have really good fun with adding extra bits onto it, couldn't you?
Well, we've got lovely teardrop-shaped gems as well that you could use in there.
Could have,
the little crown that
you could have lots of exciting things going on.
Yes. Oh, I'd love to see some fabulous beadwork.
So I used threads that matched my fabric. I'm going to do this in cream so you can see what I'm doing. I've got my embroidery foot on. Sometimes it's called a darning foot, sometimes it's called a hopper foot. It's basically a circular foot that sits on your machine. Sometimes it's more like a horseshoe shape, so it'll have a gap in it at the base. They don't generally come with your machine unless you've got a super duper one like this one. You might have to buy it separately. But you can also do free motion. If you've got a very basic machine that's only, got your straight stitch and your zigzag and has one foot with it, because we've all started with those machines and some of us have still got those machines, you can do it without your foot.
Okay.
So, don't think, oh, I've got to have a fancy foot to go with this to do this. You don't have to. You can just do it with no foot on at all.
Excellent.
So take your needle, drop your foot, and take your needle and drop it, place it, so using the hand crank at the side, just place it so it's quite close to the edge, but not exactly on the edge.
Move your hands see where that was. Yeah, there we go.
I've got the top thread in my hands. I'm just holding that out of the way. So it's almost there. The foot's engaged, and I'm going to drop the needle into my project, and then I'm going to lift the needle out. Now at this point, if you've got your foot engaged, when you pull that top thread, it will bring the bobbin thread to the top, and you'll give it a pull. Okay, so you've got both threads at the top. You have to have your foot engaged for the top thread to engage with the bottom thread.
Yeah.
So you have to have the foot down.
Okay.
Lift the foot up and using a pair of scissors, a pin or your unpicker, just grab those 2 threads, and drop your foot back, your needle back in to the space where you came out. Lift your foot and then get those 2 threads and pull them so that they then go underneath the foot and take them behind and engage your foot again. It's not always easy when you've got your embroidery foot on to see whether it's engaged or not.
Okay.
So you have to, I've got an indicator on my machine, it flashes green or red. If green's for go and red's for it's not engaged.
Nope.
So you're just going to, now at this point, it's free motion. So if I don't move my fabric, it's just going to sit there and stitch on the spot. So it might be worth just having a practice on this if you've never done it before.
Okay.
Get a scrap piece of fabric and put a shape on and just have a little play with it. And then you just move your fabric. Now, if you move your fabric quite slowly, your stitch is going to be quite small. And then if you set your machine to go and you move your fabric quite quickly, your stitch is going to be longer. So again, just find the happy medium of where you want to be, and you move the fabric under the needle so it just keeps quite close to the edge, nice and steady, keeping your stitch and moving the fabric in a consistent speed. If it goes a bit wobbly, don't worry about it. If you've used the same colour thread, it won't matter. It won't be so noticeable. And people have got to really look at it to see when it's a little bit wobbly. And they'll be admiring it when it's hanging on the wall, and they won't be looking at it that closely anyway. What you can do is you can go around it again if you wanted to and sort of give it a sketchy feel, if that's the effect you'd like to get. Just moving that around. And then you can do a locking stitch where the machine just stitches on the spot and this one cuts the thread for you. Or you can just do let it, as I say, if you don't move the fabric, it stitches on the spot anyway, so you can just leave it like that. Let it do a couple of stitches on the spot and take your thread. Now what you'll do once you've done that is you'll get a needle, if I can find one on here, there might not be one, and you'll take your thread through to the back of your work. Once you've finished, you won't have to do this each time you've done one, just enough to, you'll have your threads, which is why you leave quite a long tail, because if you can get both threads onto your needle at the same time, that's quite, saves time and is quite a handy thing to do. So you'll thread both of your threads onto your needle, and you just take that back into the back of your work, like so. Let's just take on one thread, because the other one was quite a little bit smaller, so we can just put the needle in and thread that on. Take it to the back of your work, and then what I did was I just took it into the interfacing. So I just took my needle and went into the interfacing, just to take those ends behind my work as it was, just to sort of hold them and keep them tidy. Sort of a bit of security really, so that you know that they'll come unravelled. And then just snip them. Use the right scissors. Snip them close to the interfacing, so it just takes that thread in. And I would sew around the eye as well. And that's basically what you do. You'll just go around all of your shapes doing the same thing. So just sewing quite close to the edge and changing the colours. And what I did was I used a turquoise thread on most of the fabrics.
Okay.
Changed it to like the beigey colour for the bumbleberries, because I've got a few pieces of the bumbleberries.
Yeah.
And then the purple. So I did all of the same colours at the same time. I didn't keep changing my thread for each one. I did all the turquoise ones and did all of the...
But if someone wanted a contrast thread, they could do that, Jane.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's your project and you can do with it as you will. When you come to your next project, because when you cut the thread, it'll be under your foot. Just lift it out with a pin so that it's still on the top. Some of the shapes I had a little play with. I sewed extra shapes on them. So because they're like, you know, jewel shapes, a bit like paisley shapes really, you can do little embellishments with your thread inside. So if we imagine, this is the eye shape obviously, but if we imagine that was one of the feather shapes, I went around the edge to hold, just move that thread out of the way, to hold the piece down. But then when I got back to the top of the feather, if you like, I just came down and did an extra loop to echo the shape, like so. You know, that's another thing that you can do within your shape with your thread, and that just can add you know, a little bit of extra to your piece as well. And as I said, it just lends itself beautifully to be embellished with beads and sequins. You could use metallic threads, all that sort of thing.
Little bit of interest.
Just to, you know, make it your own, particularly if you're going to be using it as a wall hanging, where it's not going to be washed very often. Right, so that's that. And then you'll trim it down to the size that Leesa says in the pattern. You'll add your borders. You add your main border on, and then you make the borders. And the borders are all made in sections. The only thing you've got on the bottom border here, there's a partial seam. So you sew it on to about there. So you'll have that section here loose. You make this side border and you sew that on to about there.
Okay.
And on this side here. You sew this section onto this side and you leave a gap here. You'll sew that onto the border at the side here.
Yeah.
And then you'll sew that seam in and then you'll carry that seam down.
Okay.
That's the only bit, and Leesa explains it really well in the instructions. It's really easy to follow.
Bit that you have to go, hang on a minute.
Yeah, you just have to stop and think about it. Read the instructions through a couple of times and it won't take you long at all.
Okay.
So obviously I've only made the top of this, but for quilting purposes you'd layer it up and do all of your layering up and you'd quilt it. You could do an overall pattern, you could do just around the edges and around the peacock, that would be enough. You could add some embellishment to it, you could add some extra bits in. There's nothing to stop you adding a bit more applique onto your centre panel. You could do some flowers, whatever you wanted to do. Carry it on.
Leesa's recommendation for backing is quite generous, isn't it?
Yes.
To allow for being long-armed.
Yeah.
This would be a lovely long-arm project, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. Yeah, because it's nice and flat. And if you are having it long-armed, you do need to have this centre panel sewn down. Yeah. Because your long armour won't love you if it's not sewn down. So
it's going everywhere as it goes through the machine.
Yeah. To add a sleeve onto the back of it. Now, you can do two ways of hanging your quilt. You can do, you know, the pole with the pegs. You could do it like that. You could just quilt it and bind it and you can hang it that way. Yeah. You could add loops in. Now, for a project this size, to add loops in, you tend to do it in the bagging method. So for a quilt that size, that's going to be quite hard to do. Not difficult, but it's going to cause you... So putting a sleeve on the back is the easiest way of doing it. And a sleeve, you can then put a pole through and you can hang it that way. Or you could put strings on it and hang it like a picture, whatever you wanted to do. So you would have your quilt done. You would have it quilted, and this is the back of the quilt basically. You would measure the width of your quilt. This is 20 inches. So the width of your quilt, less a ½ inch, and that's the width that you would cut your strip of fabric.
Okay.
You might have to join it with a 45-degree seam. So about 6.5 inches wide. You usually want to have a 3-inch sleeve. So if I cut this, I'm just going to cut this piece of fabric, and there's a rotary cutter. Just going to cut the salvages off there. Yeah. So I would cut this at, it's 20, so I'm going to cut it at 19.5. If you were using the same fabric as you've used in your backing, and it's a pattern fabric, you then want to have fold it over 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch again to the wrong side of your fabric. And you're going to hem that. Now you might want to give it a press first to just sort of set it. So if I come across to the iron, Gemma, and just lean across you, sorry. So I'm just going to take it in 1/4 inch. And then 1/4 inch again, just press that over on both ends. Now if you did the calendar quilt, you'll see the instructions for these for that, but I think we're going to do a project sheet, aren't we, Gemma?
Yes, definitely. So that's available on the website to pre-order, and that will be sorted imminently.
Fabulous. So we'll just
a really helpful thing to have to refer back to, because you showed it before I know Jane, but you know it's one of those things, a bit like binding for me.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need to keep checking it, don't you?
Yeah, and we all do it.
Yeah.
We have that Braveheart moment. You think, hang on.
Hang on.
Backwards.
Yes, what am I doing here?
If you can pull the instruction out, then great.
So I'm just changing my foot over to my ordinary presser foot, just so that I can do the hem on this. So we're just going to do straightforward, just hem those two edges down. So we've got both ends hemmed. We're then going to fold it so it's wrong sides together.
Okay.
You don't need to press it really, you just give it a crease down. Then you will pin those two raw edges to the raw edges of the edge of your quilt, okay, making sure it's centralised. So by now it's about 1 inch either side. Okay. Pin that on, and you'll need your walking foot now because this is quilted and we've already got 3 layers for your quilt, and now you're adding another 2, so you'll definitely need your walking foot just to stitch that. Now I've got the even feed foot on this machine, which is lovely, and we'll just sew that down, and we're going to go quite close to the edge, so about 1/8 inch away from the edge of the fabric. We're just to hold it. So if you want to lengthen your stitch and make it a tacking stitch, if you want to tack it by hand, you're perfectly free to do that as well. Whatever, you know, feels comfortable for you. Just making sure that it's all together, all the layers are together, and it's held down. You just want it to be attached within your seam allowance. So then you would add your binding as you would do normally to your project. So the majority of us add it to the front of our project. So 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm just going to pin that for now. So you'd add it, you'd sew that on with your 1/4 inch onto the front of your project as normal. And of course, if you want to do it the other way, where you bring it from the back forward and then you stitch it with your machine, you could do it that way as well.
Okay.
But you attach your binding in the way that you prefer, as normal.
It doesn't matter either way.
No, whichever way you do it. So if we imagine I've sewn this on now, all the way around my quilt, and then you bring that, as you would, you'd bring that back and you'd sew that down. I would hand stitch, if I was bringing it to the back, I'd hand stitch mine down. Yeah. And that covers over that edge. But what you've still got is you've still got this going on. So you now need to just, with your needle and thread, and I just had that lovely needle and now it's disappeared, there it is. You take some of your thread. Just going to have a drink because I've got a bit of a tickle.
A lot of this about this tickly throat malarkey. And the sniffles.
Yeah, that's all going on.
It is.
And you would slip stitch in the same way that when you slip stitch your binding down. So you would just slip stitch the edge of the...
Yeah, just so it's not flapping around. And
Yeah, so it holds it down.
Yeah.
So it's just a straightforward into the backing fabric, into the fold of the fabric there. Just to hold that down. You would probably do it stitches that were closer together than I'm doing, but I'm just doing it so it's quick. You can see the effect. But that's enough to hold that sleeve now. Obviously I would do it all the way to the edge. But then you've got this little pocket here now that you can thread a pole through.
Lovely.
Which will work for your hanging. You could do a dowel, as I say, and have string attached to the end, which you can then have it like into a sort of picture nail or whatever.
Perfect.
Or you could have brackets on the wall that you put the pole in.
Yeah.
All sorts of things.
Brilliant.
The Swedish home store is very good for different poles that are...
Everyone's favourite Swedish home store.
Yeah, for the different poles and stuff.
Marvellous.
But that you would sew that all the way to the end. I've only done it to there, but you can see that holds it quite well, and that will hold it, you know, it'll hang it. So that's how you add a sleeve.
Lovely. Jane, that's fabulous.
Yeah, so it's a lovely project.
Yes.
It's really easy to do. The borders are great.
Yep.
They're very easy to follow. There's some of the sashing on there, and I wanted to show you a product that I asked Natasha she'd get for me because I'd seen it advertised on Facebook.
Okay.
And it's 1/4 inch tape.
Ah.
And this is really good for doing when you're joining your strips of binding together. So you place this tape so that the red line is level with the middle of your presser foot. It's not always the easiest thing to get it in the right place, but it's repositionable, this tape, so it comes on and off. It's not very tacky. It's tacky enough to hold on your machine, but it's repositional, so it'll come off nicely and not leave any residue. You get a whole reel of it like that. So you can use it lots of different places. And this is really great if you've got a machine where you can't move your needle across and you want your 1/4 inch seam, Because for your piecing, if you were doing piecing and your needle doesn't move and you don't have a 1/4 inch foot, you can line your pieces up then with that 1/4 inch mark on that side. And it will feed up and you've got that line to follow. But for your joining with your 45-degree seam, and this is what I loved about it, if you place your 2 strips, now if this was a pattern fabric, you place them right sides together at a 45-degree angle. Now normally I trim my salvages off, but you wouldn't have to with this method. You could just pin your 2 pieces together. And then if you place where that V is there and that V is there on that red line, and then sew it, you don't have to do any marking or anything.
Oh, that's clever, isn't it?
And you just keep that red line. Oh, I didn't thread my machine back, did I? Oh, nicked the thread for hand sewing and then didn't put my thread back in. Oh dear. You can tell it's Monday. You can tell it's Monday. Look at this lovely needle. I love
Fancy where the pattern's gone now.
this needle threader.
This beautiful fabric. And yeah, Jane, you know, like we said, really adaptable pattern. Nice, so you can flip your peacock whichever direction you want as well.
Yes, that's good.
That's okay.
Because you could make 2 facing each other.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be so nice.
Wouldn't it? Right, so lining the red line up with the V's, where the V's meet, and then take that to the machine. And you can see there that you get perfect straight. And we can trim those bits, extra bits off when we do our 1/4 inch. But it does your 45-degree seam really well. And it would work for your flying geese as well, because you'd be able to follow the line for the flying geese if you use your square, you know, your rectangle and 2 square method. You've got that there as well.
Nice.
So I just think this is a lovely, I don't know if it's new or whether it's been around for a long time, but I've only just discovered it. It's new to me and I love it. Yeah, so
I'm going to pop it in today's collection, so give the collection a little refresh in a moment, and
yeah.
it should be in the right place. I've just noticed it's not in the right place.
But you know, one of my machines at home, I can't move the needle across.
Well, that's very
It's just yeah. So, and I don't have a 1/4 inch foot for it. So before I'd measured from my needle out and drawn a line, but having this tape, you know, it's perfect.
It's a
because
lovely
it's
roll, isn't it?
yeah, you've got plenty on there.
Excellent.
You could get it for your quilt group and share it,
Yeah.
or buy them all a roll each.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Beautiful.
Because I don't think it's very expensive.
No, it's nice to have as a little gift,
Yeah.
isn't it? You know,
Yeah, if you've got a quilty friend, they'd love something like that.
Yeah, even if they've already got it, you're going to use it, you're going to get through it.
Yeah, you're
eventually.
going to get through it. Yeah,
You know,
because
it's
although
nice.
it's repositional, eventually it will lose its tack and you'll have to put a new piece on. Or it might get a bit
Well,
wobbly.
or they might be like us, Jane, they might put things down and go, where have I put that?
Yeah,
Where have I put it?
where
Where
is it? Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's a lovely little gadget.
Beautiful. Jane, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for the
It's a
lovely
pleasure.
demo. So it's Leesa Chandler's pattern, Peacock Through the Window. We have our fabric kit, which is exclusive to us at Natasha Makes. We've put this one together. Just fabrics that we've put together.
This is all our
not
fabrics
available
now.
anywhere else.
Yeah.
We also then have Jane's guide to adding a sleeve to your panels, and the tape, and all the things on the website. Jane, that's you done for the week.
Yes,
In
amazing.
front of the
Go
camera.
packing
Get it out of the
now.
way.
Yes.
You'll be cutting and packing and prepping for next week.
Yes.
Which will be lovely.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Natasha's with you. She'll be with you at 10 a.m. Right now, she's busy putting all the orders together in the warehouse.
Yes, because she had a busy weekend, didn't she? Bless her.
She did. She was on Create and Craft. So if you missed that, catch us tomorrow because you'll see fabulous beanbag make.
Yeah.
Lovely, comfy recliner. I don't think you can see it on your cam, just about.
This one here.
Yeah. So she's done a children's size one and she's done an adult
Can I bring it
size
over?
one now. So it's a big one, isn't it? Look, plenty of room for an adult sized person. Nice, comfy recliner.
It just supports your back.
Yes. So she'll be showing us this, which is great. so nice to make something that people are going to go, oh yeah, I'll really use that.
Yes.
And they'll be a bit surprised as well, especially if you normally make a little make. But this is fabulous.
Yeah, this is a lovely make.
Yes, and it was brilliant for your bowl pens.
Yes.
You've got
Yeah.
a stash of bowl pens. This will be the one, I think. But thank you so much for joining us. I was reading another little story as well. She said years ago in the 70s,
Yes.
she was on teaching practice at Inverary Academy. The room had beautiful tall windows and a low sill, so it was flooded with light. And she was at the front, you know, doing her thing.
Yeah.
And suddenly there was a loud shriek from outside, and a peacock landed on the low sill and spread out his tail and stared at her.
wow.
It must have made you jump. But I'm sure that entertained everyone in the classroom.
Yeah.
They are such beautiful birds, aren't
They are. They are, but they can be a bit when they do, because
Yes.
when they open their tails out, they shake them as well, which makes quite an alarming noise.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. They're
They're
fabulous.
gorgeous. They are gorgeous.
Pat's got the tape. She says it's brilliant. So yeah, just give that a refresh in a couple of minutes, and I'll make sure it's in the right place on the collection. Auntie Lizzie says Jane the quilt is beautiful, and Julia, it's got purple in it.
Yes.
P-I-R-P-U-L.
Purple.
Yeah, purple Suze. There's plenty of purple in this one.
Yeah, it's lovely.
But yes, here we go. Auntie Lizzie was being asked about whether she's actually our auntie or whether we just call her Auntie Lizzie. So
She's
that's all
adopted
we've
auntie.
Yeah.
She's our adopted auntie.
Yeah,
Because she's good to us.
She is good to us. One of the team.
Yeah.
One of the team. I'm sorry about the sound issues today. There's a rustling sound going on, and I sound as if I'm in a corridor many, many yards away, apparently.
Oh,
We'll
right.
have to get our sound guys to have a switch around of the packs and see whether it's my pack that's playing up, whether it's the port that's playing up. It's not something we can do live on air, so I shall get Josh on that this afternoon.
Yeah.
I will. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for putting up with the sound. I've been very quiet on purpose. There's no point if it's honestly and annoying.
No, if it's annoying everybody.
So, yes, we'll stop annoying everybody, and we will see you again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Take care, lots of love, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.